Okaeri! Welcome back to my channel, Made Between the Pages. My name is Taylor, and today we're going to be doing the Finally Fall book tag. Finally. I was tagged for this book tag by Steph over on Coffee Over Apples, so thank you so much, Steph, for tagging me in this. Now, I know that it is the very end of November, but technically, where I live, it is still Thanksgiving, so I think I'm safe in doing this video. I also wanted to do it before I changed the background because your girl is a Christmas lover. So Christmas comes early in my household pretty much every year. So these lights are going to be changing for something a little more Christmassy, and I wanted to make sure that I did this tag before I changed the background. I actually really love the questions in this tag. They're really unique, so I'm pretty excited to get started. Pretty much everyone and their mother has done this tag, so I'm late, but here we are. I also have the questions written on here, so you know, if I'm looking down, that's where I'm looking. Okay, look, for most of these, I stuck with like one book and pretty much followed the rules of the tag. But this first one is right up my alley as a world-building nerd in fantasy. So I have a couple answers for this. Sorry, not sorry. The first one of these is going to be the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but I don't have this with me. So I'm going to go with The Hobbit, which I do have with me. This also has really a vivid setting and vivid imagery, so I think that's just fine. I love this little pocket, like 75th anniversary edition. One of my really good friends sent this to me as a gift, and I'm just so thankful for him. He's not even on BookTube, he just has fantastic taste. I know for some people Tolkien's writing is a little too dense and old school for them to enjoy, but one thing you cannot deny is that the setting of Middle-earth is unparalleled. The world building and the lore in and of itself that Tolkien created is just unmatched. So, I mean, whether you're a fan of the movies, which I think are one of the best adaptations that have ever existed, or a fan of the books, you can taste and touch and feel the setting of Middle-earth. So this is definitely on this list. My second answer for this question is The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. This series, I don't talk about it too much on my channel, but I adore this. I actually read it before I kind of started doing BookTube, but this is one of my top favorite series. This is set in a Venetian Renaissance setting where the characters are kind of from the slums of that area, and I think that the descriptions of this world and this setting are vivid and beautiful, and I could picture it the entire way through. There's some towers in this book that are made of glass and certain bridges that are made of glass, and the descriptions of those things are breathtaking. I remember reading it and rereading those world-building passages multiple times. Honestly, I don't think there are enough tabs in this book for how much I loved the descriptions and the world building in here. The third book that's an answer for this question is Jade City by Fonda Lee. You know, if you've been around my channel, I cannot shut up about the Greenbone saga. I love it so much. And a large portion of that is the vivid setting of Janloon as the city that this takes place in. Our main characters function as the heads of the gang that run this city. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I made a sound.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I feel like I know it so intimately. Its slums, its rich neighborhoods, and the little pockets where people like Barrow like to hide, you know? I just think that Fonda Lee does a fantastic job of creating the backdrop for her amazing characters in this story. The fourth and final answer to the first question in this tag is The Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. So obviously the first book in the Stormlight Archive is The Way of Kings, but it's like in my other bookshelf in my other room, and I can't be bothered to go get it, so I'm just going to be holding up Rhythm of War. This series has the most in-depth, vivid world that I know of in modern fantasy. Roshar is so well established. I love learning more about this world every time I open one of the books, and I'm just in awe of Brandon Sanderson being able to create this world that feels like it's a living, breathing organism in and of itself. Okay, now that we've completely overdone it and tried to overachieve on the very first question, let's move on to question number 2. Nature is beautiful, but also dying. Name a book that is beautifully written, but also deals with heavy topics like loss or grief. So for this one, I went with A Man Called Ove by Fredrik Backman. Now, if you've been around my channel a lot, you know about this book. I've mentioned it quite a few times. This is a book about an older man who has lost his wife, and he's just kind of a crotchety old man that doesn't seem to get much joy out of life anymore. And this is a story about his interactions with other people who are introduced into his life. And it is beautiful. I love the writing in this book. It just hits my soul. And it deals with a lot of really heavy topics such as loss, grief, suicidal ideation, discrimination. There are just a lot of things that are dealt with in this book in such a beautiful, poignant, heartwarming way. And I still think about this book to this day, and I've only read it once. So we know this is going to have to get a reread in the future because it's incredible. Prompt number 3. Fall is back to school season. Share a nonfiction book that taught you something new. Okay, for this one, I also have 2. The first one is Becoming by Michelle Obama. I read this book, I think last year. It was last year, definitely. And I learned so many new things about Michelle Obama as a person. She's been my hero for many, many years. Her and Ruth Bader Ginsburg have been my heroes for a very long time. And this book taught me so much more about her and why she is the amazing woman that she is. This book didn't teach me anything new in regards to admiring her, but it definitely increased my understanding of why she's such a person to admire. The second answer for this is going to be White Rage. This is a book that I read over the summer, and this book specifically focuses on American history and telling the story of Black Americans in a light that probably you've never heard, especially if you have read standard American history books in school. This book was poignant, it pulled no punches, and it just gave you the truth of the matter. One of the things that stuck out to me that I realized I had never learned about was that there was something called the Reconstruction between slavery and the implementation of the Jim Crow laws. So there was this area between the two, or this time between the two, called the Reconstruction, where the southern states tried to reinstate slavery in their own way. And this led to murder of Black people in the streets and extreme unrest before the South decided to take a more covert avenue to the same ends through the Jim Crow laws. This was not a happy thing to learn. This was not something that, you know, brought me joy to learn existed in the world, but I think it's really important to be aware of these things because knowledge is power. Number 4, in order to keep warm, it's good to spend some time with the people we love. Name a fictional family, household, or friend group you'd like to be a part of. Now, I love the trope of found family and a bunch of different personalities being put together in one place that eventually become friends. So this was kind of hard for me to narrow down to one, but as soon as I read this question, one particular book popped into mind, so I'm going to go with that one. And that book is Six of Crows and also Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. Now, I don't talk about these books so much on my channel, but clearly I like them because, hello, I've got these gorgeous special editions. But these books bring me so much joy. I read them many, many years ago now, over a summer vacation, or I think before I moved to Japan even, I read Six of Crows. And I just remember being cuddled up on the couch, you know, it was snowing outside, reading about this group of found family, and I wanted so badly to just jump into the pages. These books make my heart happy. The character work, I'm a character-based reader, so the character work in here is just stunning, and it makes me smile every time I come back to it. I also love how every single character in this found family or friend group has a very distinctive personality. They aren't copies of each other in any way, shape, or form, but somehow they flow together really well. And I want to eat pancakes with Nina and talk to Inej and go to the gambling, houses with Jasper. I love everyone in this group, and I wish they were real. Number 5. The colorful leaves are piling up on the ground. Show us a color of fall-colored. Show us a color of fall-colored spines. I wrote that down wrong. Show us a column, I think. A column of fall-colored spines. I'm just gonna go with some ones that I have nearby, so give me a sec. Is a fall color. Gold, right? Gold is one. Red is one. What else is a fall color? Foundryside's gold and black. Language of Thorns is kind of fall-y, right? Prior to the Orange Tree. I don't know, these are pretty fall looking. I think it's pretty good. What do you guys think? Here we go. Some fall colored spines. So we've got The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes at the top. We've got Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. Still haven't gotten to that book. I really need to. The Language of Thorns by Leigh Bardugo. Circe by Madeline Miller. The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. And Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. It's fall enough for me. Well, shit. Now I gotta put all these back. Okay, now that I've returned all those books back to their rightful places, let's move on to the next prompt, which is number 6. Fall is the perfect time for some storytelling by the fireside. Share a book wherein everybody is telling a story. Not everybody. Somebody is telling a story. For this one, I'm going to give 2 answers, as per usual at this point. The first one is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. If you've been around my channel, you know I love this book. It means the world to me. It is completely out of my usual genres, which makes it even more impressive with how much I adore this book. In this book, Evelyn Hugo is a Hollywood starlet who is now in her 70s. And when this book takes place, it's Evelyn Hugo telling her story of her life to a young reporter. So the entire book is basically one giant flashback. But the way that it's written and the reveals at the end, absolutely fantastic. The second book I have for this prompt is The Language of Thorns by Leigh Bardugo. Now this isn't technically someone telling a story, but it is a collection of short stories that are supposedly told to the children in the Grishaverse. So these are stories that should be told. So it's kind of like Grimm's fairy tales. So I'm including it in this prompt. I adore this collection of short stories. I don't think it's talked about nearly enough in the scope of Leigh Bardugo's works. She is a hit or miss author for me. I think I've mentioned that on my channel before. So the Grisha trilogy was just not it. It was all kinds of misses. But this book and obviously Six of Crows are some of my favorites. So this is where I think her atmospheric writing really, really shines. Also, this dust jacket is gorgeous, but have you seen the naked cover before? Come now. This is a little bit off topic, but the construction of this book is amazing. Like, the papers inside are really thick and full color, and they have illustrations that go around the outside of every page. There's also, like, the spine is so well constructed. Like, with some of my bigger books or books that aren't made as well, the spine kind of worries me. I have no worries about opening this book and enjoying reading it over and over again. So even outside of the prompt, this book is amazing, and I really wish more people talked about it. Prompt number 7, The Nights Are Getting Darker. Share a dark and creepy read. This is another one that I wish more people talked about, and that is Into the Drowning Jeep by Mira Grant. This book is about killer mermaids who live in the Mariana Trench. Now, I have a deep, abiding fear of the ocean, but even if you don't, the atmosphere in this book, when they're underwater in the deep, dark depths of the trench, is unparalleled. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Mira Grant is the other pen name for Seanan McGuire, who wrote the Wayward Children series and other books as well. But Seanan McGuire's atmospheric writing in the Wayward Children series is used very well to create these whimsical, like fantastical worlds, but that translates really well also to creepy environments. So if you haven't read this book, I highly, highly recommend that you do. It is so, so good, and it'll make you feel like squirmy even if you're fully on solid land when you're reading it. Prompt number 8, the days are getting colder. Name a short, heartwarming read that could warm up someone's cold and rainy day. For this one, I'm going to go with a book that I don't have physically yet, but I really, really want to own, and that is The Tea Dragon Society. I read this book when I was ridiculously sick in bed and I was hating life, essentially, and I needed a pick-me-up, and this book was everything that I could have possibly wanted. This book follows our main character as she discovers these little things called tea dragons, and they're exactly what they sound like. They're little mini dragons that have tea leaves growing out from their body, and they require a lot of care to make sure that they grow delicious tea. It's a beautiful little comic about friendship and finding out who you are and not being afraid to be yourself. And it's so good. It is available for free online because Katie O'Neill is amazing. So if you need a pick-me-up, you can go, find it online. But I highly recommend getting the physical book, as I plan to soon, because I think that anytime you're in a bad mood, you could pick this up, read it really quickly, and feel like the world isn't so bad. Prompt number 9, fall returns every year. Name an old favorite that you'd like to return to soon. For this prompt, I'm actually going to have 2 answers. No one's surprised at this point. But the first one is going to be Sherlock Holmes, or The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. When I was in university, I read a large chunk of his works, and even before that I did dabble in them as well. I haven't finished all of the stories, but something about Arthur Conan Doyle's writing is just cozy to me. Whenever we're on Baker Street, I can hear the fire crackling and imagine like a foggy or drizzly day, outside. And I really want to kind of go back into that environment. Plus, I love puzzles, I love mystery, so I love trying to figure out these mysteries before Sherlock Holmes can figure them out. So I think I've been feeling a strong desire to read some more of these stories. I still have quite a few to go. And this isn't the copy that I usually read. I have these like gigantic tomes of like the complete collection that I typically pick up and read. So I kind of want to go back and read some more of these. So even though it's not reading the same story I read before, it is entering back into that same world. So I'm going to count this as part of this prompt. The second one is a series that I think I saw it on like thrift books for pretty cheap, and that kind of jolted my memory and reminded me how much I loved this series when I was young, but that is the Warriors series. So I used to check these out of the library pretty consistently, and I think I've reread the first couple multiple times when I was young, and I was addicted to this series. I loved it, but I haven't read it in a really, really long time. So I think that would be really, really fun to pick this series back up. I'm doing a read-along for the Redwall books right now, which is kind of the same kind of theme as Warriors would be for me. So maybe not at the same time, but in the future, maybe sometime next year, I'd really, really like to revisit this series. Prompt number 10. Fall is the perfect time for cozy reading nights. Share your favorite cozy reading accessories. Okay, I am obsessed with all things soft and cozy, so I have a ridiculous amount of blankets that I kind of cycle through depending on the mood I'm in or the kind of aesthetic that I want. So right now, I have been using this cozy, super soft blanket to just cuddle up in on the couch. This is from a shop called Nitori in Japan. It's kind of like the Japanese IKEA, and this was on sale. I think it was a couple months ago, before fall really came in season, so no one was buying it yet because it was summer, and I was like, give me, yes please. So I have been loving this blanket. I've also been using this big, fluffy, soft pillow to kind of rest my hardcover books on, and then I just read this way. So I put that blanket on, and then I stack another pillow below this one, and then put my big fantasy hardcovers here and read that way, and it's perfection. The last thing that I've been using recently, which is pretty obvious because it's almost gone, but that is this Autumn Harvest candle. Japan is not big on scented candles. They don't really have a lot of selections. So this was actually sent to me from my mom, and I believe it's only available at Target. But it's like a scented soy candle from Opal House, and I'm obsessed. It smells so, so, so good. So I will burn this, set up with my blanket and my pillow, and just read away. The very last prompt in this tag is, as always, to spread the autumn appreciation and tag some other people. So because I'm super late and everyone and their mother has already done this, I'll just say, if you haven't done it and you would like to, even if it's December, please feel free to consider yourself tagged. Take it away. That concludes my finally fall tag. Even though it's at the end of fall, like, it is what it is. I actually really enjoyed a lot of these prompts, and I feel like it allowed me to talk about some books that I don't usually talk about. So I would love to have some conversations with you down in the comments down below. What did you think of some of these books? Have you read them before? Are you interested in them? Did you hate some of them? Let's chat. But for now, I'm gonna head out. じゃあね.